Today is not Judgment Day. Rather, it's a day to celebrate. Welcome to another edition of Truckin' Headlines. Today we're talking about a milestone not many YouTube creators make. In fact, some, if not most, fall short. But as we speak, I am now sitting here with 1,003 subscribers. So I want to take this moment, if you're watching, as I try to mess with my technical issues here. I want to take a moment, if you're watching, if you're one of those 1,003 subscribers, I want to take a moment and thank you for joining with the United States of Truckin' and becoming part of a movement that is slowly gaining momentum. Let me tell you, folks, this ain't just a number for me, okay? Because the number is what it is today, but it's going to grow and it's going to become something that a lot of people pay attention to, but I personally don't. I feel like if you love trucking the way I do, it just makes perfect sense to get your news and your information about how to survive in trucking, how to enjoy the industry and make trucking great again from objective sources. And in this day and age, that's harder and harder to do. Nowadays, objective sources are not found like they were back in the old days. I've got a friend with me tonight who's also celebrating this with me. Probably tell you what the old days meant. When you come to old news reports and old ways to find objective opinions in news, it wasn't easy. And we'll talk a little bit about that going on down into the news show. The other thing I want to talk about tonight is a news article that came out. It's supposed to be talking about rules changing, things being better, but instead, when you read between the lines, well, let's just put it this way. We're going to go over this news article tonight, and I want you to tell me, is it objective or is it just another piece of media propaganda? All this and more coming up on another edition of Truckin' Headlines. And normally I've got all my stuff keyed up and ready to go, but tonight things are a little different. So bear with me as I try getting things keyed up. There's always technical issues. So what? It ain't perfect. You guys get the idea. Greetings to you, truck lovers and truth seekers. Coming to you from the collaborative think tank for advanced trucking journalism. Now 1,000 strong, thanks to the likes of the Grumpy Old Trucker, Driving with John, Fate Truckin', Thumper and Bo, Don, who's with me tonight, and many, many more. I could sit here listing names all night long. Audience members like Griff USMC, Seven Seas Transport. The list continues. I could sit here all night saying every one of y'all's names, but we wouldn't have a show, now would we? But on to what we're talking about. Tonight, we're not just regurgitating headlines. We're ripping them open. We're talking about one case of a headline from TheStreet.com. Link down below. Just dropped a headline that says a new DOT rule, they say, could worsen the trucker shortage and delay deliveries. I'll give you two guesses what rule they're talking about. Of course, everybody's talking about it. Read the article. Opine for yourself. Well, let me ask you, do you think they're defending the drivers, or do you think they're just repackaging the same old BS that Washington and all these three-letter agencies tell them is necessary to spin because we need to control trucking? Isn't that usually how it works? Let me know in the comments what you think. We're going to break down some of the issues with this article, what I think of TheStreet.com, and I am going to defer to you for some opinions. If you're out there watching and you want to opine on this very topic, call our studio lines, 860-785-3547, 860-785-3547. Our studio lines are open, and we are going to have us fun getting to some answers. So let us hear from you tonight, because on this show, we don't just talk about the news, we drive through it. Well, let's talk about it. Earlier this week, TheStreet.com dropped a headline, and it said new rule could worsen trucker shortage, cause delivery delays. Now, on the surface, you'd think, well, yeah, finally, somebody's noticing the chaos the rule makers are creating. But then you read it. And brother, it reads like it came straight off the fax machine from the DOT press secretary's office. No pushback, no challenge, no defense. Just policy bullet points wrapped in word salad and served with a side of manufactured concern. Here's the problem. It's not journalism. It's regurgitation. This is reporting in name only. What they didn't ask is the rule needed. What's the on-the-ground impact for independents like you and me? Why do these rules always seem to help the mega carriers and bury the little guys? They didn't ask any of those questions. Instead, they played the same old tired tune, trucker shortage, supply chain risk, policy needed now. But if you're a driver, especially an owner-operator, you know exactly what this is. It's a cover story for overregulation, dressed up to look like journalism. If truckers had the media's reach, this industry would be respected like soldiers. But right now, we're treated like statistics. We're living in a time when media integrity doesn't even affect elections or celebrity scandals. It affects freight rates, it affects policy, and it affects your paycheck. But if the public keeps hearing driver shortage, they'll support automation. If they keep hearing about late deliveries, they'll support more regulations. And if they think truckers are the problem, they'll never see us as a solution. That's why this channel exists. We are here to grade the media, and I invite your input. We are here to spot the spin, and I invite your commentary. This is a battlefield of ideas, and tonight we're calling out every outlet out there that pushes a headline without digging deeper. Like TheStreet.com, they pretend to report while they're just repeating corporate memos like obedient interns. Let's see what some of our show guests have in way of opinions, and let's see what some of your comments are. Welcome to the show, Don. Glad you could make it tonight.
Good evening.
Seems like just yesterday we were talking about 100 or 200 subscribers, and now all of a sudden here we are with 1,003 and growing.
I'm glad you made it that far.
Well, I'm glad you're part of it, really. I want to say hello to my daughter who's watching conveniently from home. Hello. Glad you could make it. I'm glad you could be part of the show. And obviously, you've probably seen a lot of news. Before I go to this question, though, let me ask you, in your esteemed opinion, what is it like when it comes to thinking about back in the old days, when before all this internet stuff happened, like I mentioned in the open of the show, when you wanted objective news and opinion about something like the trucking industry, where do you remember having to rely on getting your information?
Well, let's see. Back then, everybody pretty much trusted landline, years and years and years ago. And um, that's really about it. I mean, you'd pick up some stuff at the truck stops, some news, uh, uh, trucking industry papers. Um, there were so many of them I can't even remember all the names of them. They were free. And
It's back in the day
they'd
when they
have
had the bins outside the convenience store and things where you could actually pick up quality news rags rather than all the advertised BS they have today.
right, and but really, I mean, you really had to do research without the internet. So you had to read as many articles that you could find, and then
Yep.
you had to draw your own conclusion. You know, uh, you'd have to feel your way through the BS yourself.
Hmm.
You know, which isn't that hard. I don't know why the hell people can't do it now. I mean, they want to believe everything that all the major mainstream media wants to say, and that's one of the big problems we have.
Yep. That's a big problem today. Let me tell you one of the things that kind of struck me funny was one of the things I was looking at in this article here. I'm going to see if I can pull this article or at least a snippet of it up. Um, you know, the United States does, and this is TheStreet.com, by the way. The United States does not have enough truck drivers, says, in fact, a report from the Alt Line, a factoring service, revealed recently that the country is short as many as 24,000 truckers. Now, let me stop before I read the next paragraph. Wasn't it not long ago that there was major media news outlets that was pushing 80,000?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so now the numbers are changing. First clue. This comes at a huge cost, they go on to say. There are so many trucks sitting idle because of driver shortages that Altline reports the freight industry is losing an estimated 95.5 million every week. And that number's different than what I recall seeing in mainstream media reports for even different
That's
reasons. Gotta make you
that's
wonder.
that's quite elevated.
I know, right? I mean, number one, if you're gonna tout the line that at least the mainstream media is trying to tout, at least get your information straight. I don't know the journalists personally at TheStreet.com. I don't even know the rag, really, to be honest with you. But I mean, those paragraphs you're seeing on screen, those are the first three paragraphs as the article leads in. Those are the lead in. I mean, if I'm going to look at somebody trying to make a point and trying to develop an argument, I at least want something that makes sense. You know, I thought for a moment, and the reason I read the whole thing was because, well, okay, they're talking less numbers, they're talking a lesser dollar value, but they're still making the same point the mainstream media does.
Yeah.
And obviously, you and I'm talking to you watching this stream, because you're watching this on the replay and you're thinking, where are they getting this from? If you're like you and me on the road every day, we're not seeing this. Okay. We're not seeing trucks sitting idle. We're seeing trucks fighting for freight because there's an overcapacity. There is no shortage. If there was a shortage, we'd see people, I mean, making relatively frequent calls, offering outsane rates to get the freight moved. That's just not happening. And we as drivers are having to fight for everything we get. Now, I mean, I don't know what these people at TheStreet.com, I don't know what kind of reality they're living in, but that's just, it doesn't, by the looks of this article anyway, it doesn't look like they're living in the same reality I am. Um, that's all I'm saying. I don't know if you've got something different to add to it.
Well, the thing is when their version of a driver shortage, you've got 50,000 loads today coming out of Atlanta. but there's only 30,000 trucks there. Well,
Yeah.
that's because all the other trucks are out in California because they can't get out of California because everybody's so slow loading the damn produce.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen
you know,
reports where a majority of the problem isn't the shortage, it's the logistics behind moving the trucks. So if people actually understood the volatility of the market and the nuances of how to move around, things wouldn't even look half as bad as they do. But
right,
people, they go on these. Well, and here's another classic example, getting off the whole market thing, because I'm not a market specialist. Everybody was told during COVID, now's the time. Live your dream, make your money. Everybody and their mama got into it. Okay. Now, I mention this because everybody reacted on hearsay created by the major corporate entities like your Swifts, your Warners, your JBs, the big mega carriers, right? They all said, now's the time. You can make plenty of money. They propagandized that, I mean, at a level never seen before. And everybody fell for it. They came in by the numbers, I mean, thousands, by the millions practically, buying their trucks, getting their MC numbers, getting their position secured. And then lo and behold, they only find out after they've been in it for what, 3-4 years, they were sold a bill of goods. Now we've got all these drivers sitting here wondering what in the hell to do with themselves, because now, half of them are going belly up. We're seeing articles up on the day practically about this company going chapter 11, this company claiming chapter 7. you know I'm not a financial expert, but when you've got more companies going out of business than when you've got coming in, that's kind of telling about the market. It's, you know, during COVID, everybody wanted it. Now, not so much. That to me spells overcapacity. I'm no financial wizard, but I think I can read between the lines. Seven C's, good evening. Thank you for the congratulations. I appreciate that. You especially have been around since the beginning. So I thank you for your support. And all the others watching this on the replay, because we don't have that many people in here right now. Thank you all for your support. If you're new here and want to get a quality new experience for objectivity in your news without the corporate spin that everybody gives you, consider subscribing. Go down below, like this program, and become a subscriber. Check back with us, because you know what? I'm calling this particular show tonight Trucking Headlines. And as I have time available, I'm going to be putting out increased videos that you're all familiar with. I don't hold back on my opinions on these videos. And I'm going to be having more of these live shows under headlines. I'm not changing my Sunday schedule. I'm still devoted to Frontlines. I'm still devoted to giving you guys the voice. And I welcome each and every one of you to Sunday's Frontline show, because you guys are the voice of trucking. Without you, this show doesn't stand a chance of surviving. So certainly look to join us on Sundays. I welcome you all aboard. Who do you think benefits, Don, from these new rules regarding the English proficiency, all these new pushes now to make sure that we have a safer industry? Do you think this is a case where the government benefits, or who do you think the end beneficiary will be?
oh, that's
You know why I'm asking the question? The reason I'm asking the question is because that question worded the way it is not the way TheStreet.com worded it. They put
that
it out to seem like it was us to benefit by all of this regulation. I'm putting it, their question, I'm putting it into a context the truckers want to hear. So who do you think really benefits from all of what's recently gone on?
honestly, I it's a toss up. I
Hmm.
mean, we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah,
You know, because if they delay the actual enforcement at all, and these guys or some of these folks get some of those, language programs and miraculously learn how to speak
right.
English and read it
Well, it really
and write
depends
it.
where you go. I mean, because I've heard a couple of different stories as to the direction some of these inspectors are going to take, and I've also heard about some of the challenges. I've been watching videos all week on this and podcasts, and different places have different opinions. The end result is if you can't read English, you can't understand the nuances of basic English communication, everybody flat out agrees it's unsafe to be driving a vehicle, much less an 80,000 pound vehicle.
Right.
There's no arguing that. There is no dismissing that as common sense. So whether or not, the enforcement's supposed to start the end of this coming month, June 25th, and the implementation of the executive orders already started. So, yeah, I agree with you, Don. It's just a matter of time to see what the effect is. But I am of the opinion the general public is going to be the biggest beneficiary. Now, there are those out there in the media that already say the general public's going to suffer. And this is what I have. I have a problem with when you paint a picture that doesn't exist. You cannot tell me that there are putting asunder for just a moment those individuals that cannot drive for the obvious reasons. Now, if you put that into we're talking between 600,000 and 800,000 people, possibly. No one knows the real number, but I've heard both those numbers bounced around. Now, think
Right.
about it for just a minute. If you leave out of the industry that many drivers, that's less than a third of the industry. You mean to tell me we can't cover freight with 2/3 of the remaining industry? I don't believe that. Sorry, you're not selling me that BS.
The the problem is going to arise. Everybody is so used to getting it the next day from the big A, from the jungle
Yeah,
website,
right,
you know, and other places.
right.
But that's when you say, "Oh yeah, I bought something, it'll be here tomorrow," everybody knows you got it from the jungle, you
Yep,
know.
yeah.
And
Well, yeah. At the same time, even that won't be affected, really.
sure it will. They're just going to have to get used to 2 day and 3 day shipping. That's all.
No, because what makes you think for one second that Amazon is going to really do that, or FedEx, or UPS? What they'll do is they'll find a way to get around the problem temporarily. It's just going to cost them a little money. That's all.
Well, I
They'll
mean,
they always do. I mean, that's
Amazon
what megas do.
Amazon is building uh, distribution hubs all over the place.
Yep.
I mean, in the last 3 years, I personally have worked on four of
Hmm.
their sites.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so they're building them everywhere.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Anyway, you know what? At the end of the day, I don't think the industry missing out on a third of the volume. I don't think it's. I don't think it's a deal breaker. And I personally don't believe the carnage that the media is portraying. I don't see prices of everyday goods being immensely affected, and that's what they're doing. They're painting it to make it sound as if that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Oh, if
it's
we lose
it's
that many drivers, your stuff is going to start getting twice as expensive. Oh, please. They said that about tariffs. Come on, give me a
yeah,
break.
it's fear mongering. That's all it is.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and I mean, let's dovetail on that. If the shortage is so severe, why is it so many qualified drivers say they can't find good paying freight? Think about that analogy for a second. Because I just got done explaining, the back and forth with this. There's so many people saying there's a shortage. If that were true, wouldn't the dollar values reflect that?
Well, our government subsidizes all those foreign drivers.
Not
I
anymore.
know. Well, okay, up until we'll say a week and a half ago.
Yeah,
Um,
I just had to poke fun
and
at you.
And I personally know a guy from Ukraine that came
Yep.
here,
Hmm.
and the government loaned him the money interest free
Yep.
to start a trucking business.
Hmm.
He bought 2 trucks. He started pulling containers.
Yep.
Uh, Now he's got, last I knew of him, he was up to 18 trucks with his own authority
Wow.
pulling reefer.
Imagine that.
And the only people he hires are Ukrainians. That's it. Because none of them can speak English.
People have varying opinions about this, but I have a problem with that. Yeah, I get that you want to keep your business consistent. Your business model is your business is your business. But when foreign companies come in and start number one undercutting competition with questionable practices, and I'll include that, because you know what? There are people right here in the homeland, in our country, that need work. And if they walk through your door and want to be and qualified to do it and want to work honestly, they should have the same ability to do that job. I have no problem with people that are qualified to do work that come by it that come by it legally and do things the right way. I've got no problem with that. This is not an immigration thing. This discussion is about the integrity of the industry. It's strictly
Yep.
about what's right. You're going to come in here and you're going to, do like I've seen in some stories where they get paid grants, they get paid money, they open up and they start only insuring half their fleet. They only start, inspecting half the drivers. They don't vet any of the drivers. They don't carefully run a specified safety and maintenance program like the FMCSA and DOT require. They take all these shortcuts and they get these competitive advantages with the companies, you know, that do it the right way. Now that I have a problem with. And there's far more examples of exactly those practices going on that have led people to making some of the rules and regulations that make our job as difficult as it is. And that's where I have the biggest problem. J&A Truck and Trailer, thank you for the good job, my friend. I'm glad you're with us tonight, and I'm glad you feel that way. Glad you're part of the first 1,000. I hope you're around for the next 1,000. Our job is only just beginning. Um, One of the things I find odd, and I'm not going to beat this issue to death, but one of the things I find odd, really odd, is a lot of these different media outlets that you'll scan the internet, and I do every day. I look at news articles all day, and I pick them apart. That's what I do on my 10-hour breaks. And one of the things I find interesting is a very small amount of these news articles or editors or journalists that write for them ever ask the important questions of the people in the industry. They always take the stance of what the companies out here think or what the megas think or what consumers think of the trucking industry. They seldom ever ask a single trucker how their day is affected by anything you write about. And if you look at that article, nothing's mentioned about specific truckers and its effect on us.
Right.
Not once.
Well,
Just thought I'd mention that. And you know what? I'm endeavoring to run into people. I do it all the time with this show. I mean, Don, you've been here long enough, and if you look at all of my past live shows, you see I want to bring these articles to your attention. I want your thoughts on this. I could
yeah,
sit here all day long and talk to you about how I think this is right, wrong, or otherwise. But what I say don't mean nothing. Honestly, I do this for you guys. I do this because I want your thoughts. I want you to see exactly the hypocrisy that's in some of the stuff that I'm talking about. Some of it's good. Not all of it. I tell you what, 90% of what I read, I laugh at. I think it's a freaking joke. I really do. It's the reason I do what I do. I mean, you've been around the industry probably a lot longer than I have, Don. I mean, is that just the way it is? I mean, am I overstepping here? I mean, what do you think?
You just gotta weed through the bullshit, plain and
Hmm.
simple. I mean,
Yeah, I know. I try to drill it home that this channel and my mission is here for one purpose, and that's you know, I mean, you've got channels out there all across YouTube. And you know what? I can't convince you to, stop watching someone else and watch me. That's not my purview, not my purpose. All I can do is tell you that if you find watching somebody a little bit uncomfortable because you think maybe there's a chance that they're stuck in a rut, whomever you're watching, I'm not talking about anybody. They're doing the same thing over and over again, never changing, never looking outside their lane to maybe give you a differing opinion, which a good many of them do. Here's your place to come because I'll do interviews. I'll talk one on one with people. I mean, if you represent the industry and you've got a point you want to make, come on my show. If you're a truck driver and you feel like you're disenfranchised by something that's going on in the industry, come on my show. I'll help you make a difference. If you feel like something good is about to take place and you feel like you're the only one that can make a difference and make it known, come on my show. I'll spread the word. Silence is our enemy. I've said that from day one. And the whole purpose behind this show and every other thing I do when I'm not driving this truck is to help make trucking great again. And I'll tell you another way I do this. I support a group of friends of mine on Discord. They hold podcasts twice a week, mainly, and you'll find them on Wednesdays. It's called Truckers Unhinged. I invite you guys to look them up. Truckers Unhinged is a group of guys that like to get together. Don, you're one of them. We talk
yes, sir.
about we talk about the very same type of issues you'll find being discussed on this show. But what's nice about Truckers Unhinged, anybody can listen, anybody can join. Only one opinion is true, and that's yours. And that came from Dollar himself. Um, anyway, did you want to add anything to that? I mean, you've been part of that whole experience as it started.
Now I'm gonna let you move on.
Okay. Well, I didn't know. I'm never going to shut anybody down. All right, I'm gonna wrap an interesting introspective into this. What do you guys think would happen if the media actually did what they were supposed to do? Home Alone moment,
Uh,
right? What do you think would
I,
happen?
I I'd probably have a coronary, but
Well, we don't want you dying tomorrow, so you better be careful on that one. I mean, think
I
about it.
mean,
It would force people to look beyond the surface and not just about policy, because honestly, that's what these media outlets do today. If they actually stopped, looked at policy when it's made, things that happen, stories that develop, and actually told the truth and did what a credible journalist is supposed to do, this whole industry would be a far different place.
wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. We haven't had a credible journalist since Walter Cronkite. Yeah,
Well,
I said it.
damn, that shows your age, bruh. I don't know if I'd really want to admit that. Yeah, the strange thing is,
because
I actually remember watching those shows. To be honest with you.
because none. I mean, Dan Rather, yeah, until his later days when he started getting senile, yeah, okay,
Yeah, until he
but
was bought up by CBS. Yeah, let's not go there.
yeah, but there is no real journalism anymore. Not out of a major network. Put it that way.
Someone in my family. The apple don't fall from the tree. I'll just say this: someone in my family actually has dived in and done a report on what real journalism is. That's why I have the kind of introspection I do about what journalists should be. Um, because just like you said, since Walter Cronkite, we've really strained real hard. Even in print media, I cannot readily recite an actual journalist writing print media. I mean, USA Today, they leaned in their direction. New York Times, same thing. All these print rags, as it were, they all have their particular leanings. They're all either left or right or moderate or progressive or one. There's not one out there that actually sticks to the old doctrine of what journalism is. Okay, one of the things I learned a short time ago is journalism started long before there were pens, believe it or not. Journalism started back in the Stone Ages, pretty much. I, I mark it as extreme, but it's got a long history. And for those that may not understand the direction I'm taking this in, journalism is something that was born out of a need for not trusting the government. That's the best way to explain it. Um, in colonial days, it was something that was done in secret. Best way I can relate this is in colonial days in the 1600s. In order for you to get a message out that something was going to happen to the king or something like that, back in those days, the king's men enforced a rule that you couldn't spread information that was false around, and anything that they felt was false at the time, they could confiscate it and hang you for it.
Yep.
Um, so it was real tricky as to how to actually keep the government, or in the case of colonial, the king and anybody accountable. You couldn't do that. So as time progressed, that's morphed into what we have today, which is people having newspapers, magazines, talk shows, podcasts, all that. There's a long history involved in it. And if I can get a hold of it, I'd like to really give people an honest idea of what true journalism is, because I'll tell you honestly, what we have today, it don't fly. It's nothing close. I have the
Well,
respect I have for asking the questions I do, basically from that knowledge. What were you going to say, Don?
well, like you said, when you started talking about the rags, as you put it,
Hmm.
USA Today, Wall Street Journal, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Those are all syndicated writers. There's one writer writing for all the damn papers.
yeah,
So you're
that's
not
partly true. That's partly true. Yeah, I mean, would
so
it
you're not
surprise you to
getting the
would it
full
surprise you
spectrum.
to know that some of those rags are committee based? Believe it or not.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's a generic way of putting it, but there are actually companies and organizations that spit out certain headlines, bylines, and the major corporate entities. I'm not going to name names, but they'll pick up on it and they'll use it. They'll twist it a little bit. They'll add a word here, change a word there, maybe but they're all pretty much in unison. And that harkens back from the days of The Wire. And I'm not talking
right.
about the rag, The Wire. I'm talking about the actual teletype that news
Yep,
broadcasters used to use. They sit there and read it as back in the
yep,
Cronkite days. You remember.
yep, yep.
Um, that's what I'm talking about, and that's where the practice came from. Only now it doesn't happen on this long ticket type thing. Now it happens over digital media now. So
Right.
same thing goes on today. Same principle, and it's disgusting. And people have just lost the art of asking questions. You know, they've just lost it entirely. What's
I
wrong with?
think
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
general public is afraid. Not the general public. Let me rephrase that.
Hmm.
The quote unquote journalists of today are afraid to go out and actually put the footwork in to actually get a good story,
Yep.
a factual story.
Yep. Yeah. It costs too much. It costs too much in the reputation if they're wrong, and it costs too much in the money that it costs. You know, the only real example I've got is just trying to corroborate all this stuff. Back in the beginning of the first investigation on Trump. I heard a report one time the millions of dollars that was spent trying to corroborate whether or not any collusion existed between the Trump campaign and Russia. You know, no answers were ever given, but there was 8 digits worth of
They
money.
sure spent the money.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And all the journalists, all they did was just regurgitate, between each of them, the press pools when they got together. They didn't answer any of the questions. They really didn't take the time to ask any of the questions. They just kept respawning all the old arguments over and over again.
Yep.
I'm not picking that argument up to take sides one way or the other, but it's just to illustrate, very few people are afraid of stepping out and being that odd man out that says, wait a minute, what if this isn't true? What if by chance, maybe there's just a chance, maybe there isn't a trucking shortage? maybe the mega carriers are overlooking safety by doing whatever. Maybe the insurance companies are making too much money by, whatever policy. You pick it. I'm picking random things, but you get the point, right?
Yep.
Every once in a while, you'll get somebody like me that comes along and says, oh, I do want to answer the questions. Now, I don't have a team of reporters and journalists and people to go out and private eyes and all that. I can't do all that. But I can answer the questions, and I can certainly entertain the answers from you, which is why I enjoy doing what I'm doing. So that's my way of being an objective journalist. All right, let me say, hey, boss man, glad you could join us, Griff. Glad you could make it. 1,003 strong because of people like yourself. Glad you can make it tonight. Definitely check us out on the replay, and definitely have fun waiting on the next 1,000. Because I assure you, it took me 17 months to get to the first 1,000. It won't take me 17 to get to the next. But anyway, in short, it's a late evening. I'm not going to keep everybody awake. I'm going to have you look at the report, look at TheStreet.com. Link is down below. Ask yourself this: was it reporting or was it repeating? You be the judge. But I'll tell you something. When the media writes us out of this story, we write ourselves back in. We are here every day looking out for you guys, making sure that what's right, is done in the effort of journalistic integrity. If they can't do it right, we are certainly going to do our damnedest to be as close as possible. Because we are here to get one thing done. And that one thing is simple. We are here fighting for you because nobody else out there is going to. TruckinCityMedia.com, that's the way you find us. If you're a driver with a voice and a view, this is your platform. We are 1,000 strong. We are continuing to grow every day. Your search for greatness ends here, and I am the man to bring it to you. I am BossMan. This is Truckin' Headlines. You are invited to come back and watch us tonight, any night, and on Sundays, Truckin' Frontline. Till next time, remember, it's the trucks that make the deliveries, but it's you that make the difference. Till next time, my friends, Keep it high, keep it right, and keep it rolling.